Hi, my name's Joe and welcome to All New Releases Episode 2, in which we dive headlong into the Steam New Releases category and see if we can find some games that you haven't heard of and might be worth your time. Today we're going to be having a look at a game called The Artist, which has been recently released by an outfit called Motoda Media in Toronto. Let's have a look, shall we? Motoda Media is one-man band Alex Kierma, a self-confessed media madman from Toronto, Canada. Alex's website is host to a vast array of work, including games, VFX production, writing, directing, programming, photography, songwriting, recording, editing, the list goes on. He studied media production and got his start working on TV shows, music videos and movies. As far as video game production goes, he has no formal background in programming, but produces small games in his spare time. Alex has developed a mobile game, Plonk, as well as a couple of Gear VR games, of which The Artist was his second. So I'm already kind of breaking my own rules here. I had 3 unwritten rules that I made when I started this channel. 1, the game had to have less than 10 reviews on Steam. 2, the game had to cost less than £5. And 3, no mobile ports. Well, what we have here is a game that was initially a Gear VR game, but I think we're going to let this one slide because Gear VR is very much its own thing, so let's respect the thing. The game is available on Steam for £4 or $5, as well as the Oculus Store. It began life as a VR game. According to Alex, the Gear VR is a great platform and sadly missing a game like mine, so I felt it would be a good fit. Anyone familiar with Cyan's games, or more recently The Witness, will be comfortable with The Artist. Looking at these 2 pictures, the similarities are evident. You come home one day to discover a magic painting, and after touching it with a magic brush, you soon find yourself pulled into the canvas. After finding a cryptic introductory letter from the artist and being dropped a couple of vague clues, you're given free roam of the island to uncover its secrets. From the credits on the main menu, it's clear that this is almost wholly the work of one man. Alex cites Kyle, an old friend who helped with a couple of models and offered his expertise to Alex, an inexperienced modeler himself. The game consists mostly of simple geometry. This is a constraint of its days on Gear VR, no doubt, but also an active decision by Alex. He told me that he had to put together a custom shader to get the desired effect, and the game took a lot of tweaking to get to run at an acceptable frame rate for the Gear VR. Bear in mind that when we're talking VR, anything less than 60 FPS isn't acceptable. The style doesn't come across as cheap or lazy, and it cuts out the fluff that would otherwise dull the striking aesthetic. Plus, I wouldn't fancy having to track down some of this game's more hidden secrets when they're obscured by a wall of wavy, ambiently occluded foliage, though I will concede that, owing to the low poly nature, occasionally identifying what objects were was a bit of a challenge, in the greenhouse especially. The visual presentation, though Spartan, is polished, and menus, journals, textures where there are textures are thoughtfully applied. Despite the basic look, the sound design is fully fleshed out and layered. Waves lap at the shore, drips and footfalls echo through a cave, permeated by the hum of a generator nearby. So, my criticisms. Due to the lack of UI, your only indication that you can interact with an item is a black dot that appears in the centre of the screen when looking at an object. This can sometimes be lost if you're looking at a visually interesting object. A white ring around the dot would have helped with that. Another issue with the raycasting is that sometimes you have to find the right angle on items to use them, or wiggle the mouse until the dot appears. I found this to be an issue with the telescope on a few occasions. The story is, in the Myst fashion, mostly conveyed through the world, with some flavour text adding a couple of points via notes and books. Musings from the artist who painted the world you inhabit. There is a hefty bit of exposition in the form of a diary at one point that could perhaps have been spread more evenly over the island a few pages at a time, like breadcrumbs, incentives for solving the next puzzle. But these are minor criticisms at best. What really surprised me about the game was that it only took Alex a month to put it together. A month of hard work, no doubt, but Alex attributes a large amount of that time to tweaking for the Gear VR. The game took me about 3 to 4 hours to get through, and even then I had to seek out guidance. It admittedly took me a long time to make any progress with this game. While other people in the Steam discussion were asking how to get into the greenhouse later in the game, I was stumbling about after the first puzzle, to the point where I thought something might have broken. You see, this is a concern when you're playing a new game by a relative up-and-comer. Who are we kidding? It's a problem in AAA games too, but more so than other genres, puzzle adventure games ask you to put a high level of trust in the designer. I trust that if I approach a puzzle in a certain way and it doesn't work, it's not because the game hasn't activated a trigger properly, but because I don't have the right answer yet. And I feel really bad for thinking otherwise during my time with the artist, because by the end of the game it became clear this was not the case. So this is a solid game. It's a micro Myst. It's got all that mystique and charm that the old Cyan games had, but condensed and accessible so that someone who maybe doesn't have as much puzzle experience can still appreciate it and hopefully complete it if they don't mind banging their head against a wall for a while. Anyway, that's my review of The Artist. I hope you enjoyed it. Join us again next week when we'll be having a look at another game. Until then, subscribe if you like the channel, and I will see you later.